the interesting thing at that point was, as I'm getting ready to finish the internship, then the jobs changed. My idea of going to engineering medicine was no longer a viable idea, because all the jobs that were very interested in me and the trend toward the future dealing with mechanical, medical devices, all of a sudden the monies of the research grants got changed. It, it was 1969, and I think we landed on the moon then. So it was timed with that. So the concept of me, what do I do? I was now, let's see, I don't know if I was 28 to 30, it could have been 30-something years old. 31, yeah. And I didn't want to go really back to school, although I was thinking maybe I should, because I'm really looking forward to either going to practice, which was unknown. I had no idea what that would be. Or the ideal thing of going to medical engineering was being eliminated. Going back to an engineering job was disgusting. And so I really didn't know what to do. And the concept of possibly doing what some of the doctors on the staff were doing was, because of malpractice, medical malpractice, they were going to law school. And then as they were going, they realized how difficult it was to do that, plus maintain some sort of an income. So a lot of them dropped out. So I figured this is not good statistically. So I sort of made the idea that it's against that. We came back east and we settled in New Jersey, because that was a compromise between my parents and her parents. You know, since she was from Philadelphia and I was from New York, the in-between would be New Jersey. Okay. So the first thing I did was get a job at the hospital in Oradell, New Jersey, which is northern New Jersey, as a house physician. And there you're on 24 hours and off 24 hours. And during the other times, I would make a lot of house calls. I'd take house calls from the other doctors that need coverage, and so I'd run around on the house calls. And it was a way of surviving, and everybody wanted you to, when you finish this job, they're trying to draft you into their own practice. You know, why don't you join me, and I will give you such and such, and you can, you know, develop your own practice or something like that. So I took a job in South Jersey, near the Delaware Bridge. And this guy was very good at getting me and manipulating me so to put in all the work. And it was not a very enthusiastic job. It was for obesity practice. It was giving out pills and stuff like that. And so I didn't really like that. So at the same time, I was talking to colleagues of mine who were in the other, or classmates, and asking them what they know. And they said, hey, there's a place where I like to keep my boat on the east, on the Jersey Shore. And they thought, a lot of times they need doctors out there.
Hold on one second.
Yeah.
Do you want to grab that?
Hello? This is Mark, yes. You want to talk to him? Yes. Timing. She's worried about timing.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, he says. Jogging's no good for you. No. Right. Very good. Right. Good.
Okay.
Okay, the end of the internship was when your mother found out she was pregnant, and after treating, after the gynecologist out in Columbus, Ohio, was treating your mother for inability to have a baby and taking all kinds of localized anti-cervix type medication and potential almost surgery to remove chronic cervicitis, we found out that she was already pregnant. And she got really big, and we came to this, yes, we came to this apartment in North Jersey where I was house doctor. She got very big, and she actually, we lived on top of another office. The landlord was in the bottom area, and we were on top. And we used the attic, which was, I don't remember exactly how it was, but the attic had studs on it, and had sheetrock below it. And we used that as some storage. And for some reason, I was at the hospital doing my thing, and she was in the house doing whatever she did, cleaning and stuff like that, and getting stuff out of the storage. So she had to go onto this attic area. Next thing I know, she fell right through it, and she landed on the guy's desk below. And I don't remember the details, but there was quite a bit of noise. People came home, I guess from the office downstairs. They didn't know what to do. They called all kinds of people involved in this thing. But it ended up with quite a story after that. How somebody this big should have taken a chance and gone into the attic. Anyway, we went to South Jersey, and I'm trying to think of the timing of this thing. I think the baby was delivered in South Jersey. But I'm not sure.
I was delivered in Saddlebrook.
Saddlebrook, I know, but we may have gone up to Saddlebrook to get the delivery done. So, now, this is a woman that had difficulty, supposedly, getting pregnant and with fear because she was worried about this not being able to get pregnant because her sister had a lot of problems with conceiving, and ended up adopting her son Craig. Before that, she had years and years of taking hormones and doing all kinds of testing and stuff like that. And then the conclusion was she couldn't get pregnant. So the fear of this with your mother was there all the time. And so it went from that situation to forgetting how not to get pregnant. Because right one after the other, the three of you came. During this time also, we came, all right. We find out that possible location of practices could be at the Jersey Shore. So we were told or recommended that we go out there. We found a babysitter for that day and took a trip to Manahawkin, New Jersey, and met with some doctor, general practitioner in his 70s. And he had a very cute, quaint, old practice, but he had a big following. And he said, we're asking him what about, what would he like to do in his future? And he says, he'd like to continue what he's doing. But why don't you go up north of there? And Forked River is looking for a doctor. And so at this time, the babysitter was taking care of you, and we took a trip, and it was getting a little dark. And so we took a trip up Route 9 and ended up in Forked River. The police station at that time was above the flower store. It was a very quaint town. So, asking directions, we finally went up to the police station and asked whether or not they needed a doctor. He gets on the phone with the mayor and eventually gets on the phone with Bernie Miller. And there's another group of, this was a selected group of people that were, their job was to try and find a doctor. And so I think it was another day that I came out and I met with them and they had it all arranged. They arranged transportation for stuff that I bought from other practices. And I got Henry Mayer was a big contractor in the town. And he eventually formed a bank. But he was the guy with the big equipment. So flatbed trucks, they were able to load the trucks with some machines I needed for the office, plus household goods and stuff like that, and brought us to Forked River. Also quickly, we were able to find a house. At that time, you needed 50% down on the house because of interest rates and stuff like that. They wouldn't lend us money. And we found a little house and we moved in there. Found an office space where they were giving rent-free because they wanted the doctor. And as we're trying to fix up the office and your mother was there trying to clean the floors and stuff like that, there were people waiting on the door, at the door, ready to start. So it was like a natural. It was unbelievable. And some of them, some of the potential patients were willing to stay in the office to help out while, setting up the office while they're waiting for treatment.
And you kind of learned as you went along?
Oh, yes. A lot of the stuff, most of the stuff that you don't learn in school. And I remember somebody wanting a mole taken off the skin. And I never did this. But I had, from this practice I bought equipment from, a cautery machine, an electrical gadget where it sparks at the probe. So what we did, we took a piece of frozen meat from the refrigerator and I experimented on that, on how to burn the stuff off using local anesthetic and stuff like that. And I was ready as soon as that, the night before, and I came to work with that machine and was able to treat the mole. And the other stuff was when I would have problems with patients like stress problems. Your mother's background was psychiatric nursing. So, and I didn't know enough about medication used for depression and stuff like that. You learn that actually from detail people that come in. Salespeople will try and leave samples and will try and get you to use their product, and at the same time it'll give you literature and you learn a lot of that stuff right away. So on some of these occasions I would, especially if they had little kids and the kids are driving them crazy, I'd say, why don't you go to this address, call ahead of time and sort of discuss it. And then the address was my house, of course, and your mother would be the therapist, even though she didn't want to be. So it was very, very cute stories. I would find out about it later. The other thing I remember was the manager of the A&P store comes in as a patient at night. I had night hours. And his stomach was burning. He had nausea and he had probably diarrhea and he had some gas and stuff like that. Very upset. And I'm asking him what happened. He says, I've had a terrible day. There are people come in the store, they want things from me and I can't supply them, and they're obsessed with what they want to do, and a lot of people give me a hard time. I said, okay. I gave him some antacids and I gave him some anti-nausea stuff. And I told them to come back next week and hopefully they'll do a good job and stuff like that. That night when I came home, your mother was very difficult to deal with because she had the big belly, or this must have been the second kid already. Big belly. Got a babysitter for you, I guess, I think, if the timing's right. She would go to the store and ask for stuff, and they wouldn't have the stuff, and she'd go crazy. And she says, "You're supposed to be a big store. You're supposed to have all of these things. Where is the stuff?" And he get on the phone and finds out that another A&P is, let's say, in Bayville. Says, "Okay, I'm going to wait here. You figure out how you're going to get it." Okay? That's the same patient that was in there the morning. Just being driven crazy by this lady.
Oh, funny.
I remember the, well, the babies, when you were little, and I guess he was little, and we would get regular visits from Philadelphia, and then not so regular visits from New York, from the grandparents. My father would come down figuring that Forked River doesn't have any Jews in it. Okay, it's not true, but that's the way he figures. Nobody outside New York has Jews. So he would make sure that we have food. And he'd bring the food from, there was day-old stuff from the supermarkets, which they give real cheap, breads and rolls, and then he'd find other stuff like chopped liver and things like this. And he'd bring a whole basket of stuff. And then, of course, Ethel would be cooking and making stuff for that. There was usually a lot of disagreement between Ethel and your mother because Ethel knows how to bring up kids, obviously, and your mother doesn't. So, and also there was envy of your mother's part, trying to overshoot what Ethel was doing. In other words, if you're making dumplings for something, she would make more. Okay? Or they always would brag about the quality or the density of the dumpling. And there was a competition of how less dense it was and how fluffy it was and things like that. And it ended up a routine where Ethel really wouldn't want to talk to me. She'd want to talk to your mother to find out what was going with the kids, what's going with everything else. And your mother didn't like that. And she would complain to me, why does she only want to talk to me? And it ended up through some amateur analysis that she can get away with things with your mother, where she couldn't get away with it with me. So she talked to me, and I wouldn't really answer her questions. You know, when are you going to come up to New York and see us? I don't know. Do you plan to do it within the next 3 months? Maybe. Whereas your mother had to give her an answer. And then, of course, whatever the answer was, she'd come back with the next question. So she had ammunition with your mother, and me, I wouldn't give it to her. So I ended up with a giving her a script on how to answer the phone. In other words, you're supposed to answer the phone the way a teenager would, giving no information, giving no ammunition for the next question. And then she'll be disgusted and eventually want to talk to me about it. Okay, so that's what it was.
But she, as long as I knew Ethel, she was always making Mom very upset.
Yes, it was continuous because of this digging at her, you know, with, so what are you doing with the kids? Well, we did such and such. Why didn't you do this? That sort of stuff.
I remember a story about giving Ethel a present or money or something, and I don't want money, I want a present. Next time, give a present.
Boy.
I want money.
Yeah. There was a big thing with the dog. We had a dog, and the name was Max. And when Ethel found out the name was Max, she went into a tirade. How dare you? You're naming it after your father-in-law, and how could you equate a dog with your father-in-law? And she wouldn't get over this. This was something she would dig at this, and it took quite a bit of time for that. Oh yeah, my father's answer to that was, why don't you just tell her you're sorry? But because my father was sort of a pacifist, he didn't want to make waves. No yelling. I used to have the Jewish expression schreinischt. Don't yell, don't scream. And if it takes a couple of words of apology, or I'm sorry, I'm going to kill myself for you, that sort of stuff, you should say that. And that used to be the issue. Let's see. The relatives would come down, and they would show up on weekends. Now, these were not just relatives, they were friends. Her maid of honor at the wedding was Sue Rubin, and she would come with her kids and her husband, and the kids were wild. They were not controllable. They'd hop on the furniture and stuff like that. They'd break things. And they'd show up without any kind of calls or anything like that. So it was like we were the Jersey Shore. We were the vacation area. And so it ended up, it was routine where people wanted to show up to this vacation area, that I finally joked with your mother and said, we need a reservation schedule. They have to call ahead and make the reservations whether or not beds are free, available. And that used to happen quite a bit.
Anything else about the kids, the birth of the kids?
Well, the kids, let's see, I guess it was Eve's turn. You were there already. We used your grandmother was the babysitter a lot. Or we would drop you off somewhere in order for us to do what we had to do. I remember going on a cruise with a pregnant mother there, and the cruise was loaded with mechanics or something like that. It was a group of people that were beer drinkers, in a big party, and they had special remarks about the big belly that was walking in front of them. It was a little embarrassing for her. I also remember, let's see. Oh yeah, you're born already. Eve is on her way, really close, and the way to judge, because the doctor for us was Steinberg in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, or JFK Hospital in Cherry Hill. And that was the doctor that used to handle Rita's problems, and then handled the birth of the kids. So what I was the general practitioner in Forked River, okay? And so when she felt that labor pains were starting, I would be the checker. I would be the one that evaluates whether or not there's, it's false alarm or not false alarm. So I remember in the middle of the night, I had to check. I had to do some checking, and I found out that she was ready. And I remember getting on the phone with Dr. Steinberg. It's coming, okay? Fine, meet me at so-and-so, the hospital. And I remember the VW with my lights flashing and speeding down Route 70 to get to the hospital, and blowing horns and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then I remember each one of the kids, as they were born, was a phone call to Fanny, letting them know. Yeah. And in the evenings, when I go back to the Forked River house, I remember, with the kids, it was a big thing to try and sit down. The family would sit down with everybody, for dinner. Um, and then I remember watching TV or doing something in the living room, and I remember the kids surrounding me, and one would be playing my hair with combing my hair, and one would be running back and forth and doing something, either with toys or something like that, and the third one would be close by, and so it was a very close situation. Um, and I remember dogs. There was always a dog. And there was one dog later, I'm not sure the timing, was Buddy. Buddy was there was a state trooper that lived in a couple of houses away from us in Forked River. And he found a half Great Dane and a half, another big one, breed. And we called it Buddy, and we would put him in the garage when we had company and stuff like that. And the garage wasn't good enough to hold him. And he was very, very powerful. We used to let the kids walk him. And it was the leash, maybe a couple of kids, and this dog was pulling him. And this was a chore. It was very difficult to control him, but a very friendly dog. But I remember once we had company over, and he came through the garage entrance, not the front door, but we had a door that went into the kitchen. Came right through that. He was able to get the paws through the boards. And I think we got rid of him because he snapped at one of the kids at one time. He got angry. He had the right height for the kitchen table, so he would steal whatever was on this table just by turning his head and grabbing it. But he was quite a dog. We finally get him advertised, and somebody picked him up on the beach. Somebody placed on the beach where he could run into the water and stuff like that. He also had a tendency to. We had the bridge over Forked River, right next to the house, right behind the house. And he would always go up on the bridge, and there were always boaters underneath, or I don't know, rowboats or canoes or something like that. And periodically they would see this dog flying off of the bridge into the water over them.
He liked to jump off by himself.
He wanted to go in the water. So he would jump right off. See, he had a personality. Let's see. And that's what I remember. I remember, I once, one of these stress patients, a lot of problems psychologically, but she cleaned houses. And your mother was looking for house cleaners. That's one of the reasons I sent her over. And then I heard about it that night, saying she's crazy. This is not a person I need in this house. When you were born, everybody's, oh, how cute and all that kind of stuff. They didn't pay any attention. And I'm looking at you, and you're blue. And because basically you're delivered, and they're wiping you off and all that kind of stuff, and that's it. You aren't breathing. So what I did was just get you started on pushing down on the chest and starting blowing the mouth. I forget exactly what I did until you started picking up. But they were, oh, yeah, boy, it's a boy, it's that kind of stuff. And, oh, it's so pretty. So, they're worried about the wrong stuff. And, so I'm not sure what would happen, really, if maybe I didn't have to do a thing and you would have started spontaneously. But anyway, that's what happened with that. When Eve was born, there were no girls in the house. There were no girls born to anybody. You had my brothers had his kids, no girls. for some reason, you know, that's the way it was. And I remember a story. Okay, no, okay, we're going back a little bit. There was a neighbor in Northeast Philadelphia, where your mother was brought up, that was reveling on the fact that he only had girls. And when you were born, and we were visiting Grandma, he was wondering how you get a boy. What do you have to do? So I made up the story of how you get a boy. And I told it to him. And I told him what kind of boots to wear. And I told him a routine, the timing and stuff like that. He says, okay, he's going to do that. He's supposed to wear combat boots. So that was that story. With the girls, with having Eve, I called my brother, and he was quite a little bit annoyed how I was able to get the girl and he couldn't get any. That's another cute.
Funny.
Okay, we moved a few times. We moved from Forked River. We were able to find this property in Bayville on Route 9 in 15 acres, wooded. There was really no other property like it. And we had very nice neighbors. The judge was the next house, the judge in Toms River, and we had, I don't remember their name, but the other house on the way into this property. He had to go through the dirt road. And it was quite a thing. And your mother used to be very upset when I would challenge going into the property and I turn off the engine at the entrance to the dirt road, which was still a couple of blocks away from the house, and see if I could make it without using any kind of power to steer right into the garage area. She would be very annoyed at that. And I think I would do it because she was annoyed at it.
You try to coast all the way in.
Yes, yes. And I remember at that time we had some bad winters and sometimes freeze-ups. We had a well water, and the well was in, the well equipment, the pump and storage tanks were in the garage. And so they were very susceptible to freeze up in the bad winters. And when that would happen, we had friends in Toms River, like Crash Arrows, and they had a great hot tub. So we used to use their tub. And that was it. We grew up, and let's see. Eventually, that was too much of a house. It was 15, 17 rooms, whatever it was. And we had, cleaning lady. I forget her name.
Is Vera?
Vera.